Share with you guys how amazing this Jupyter Notebooks thing is. So once I got it installed, you just run Jupyter Notebook, and it basically makes this web browser development based area for you to play with Python stuff. So this is the notebook that I was playing with just before, which was my typical Python development, which is write some stuff, change some stuff, tweak it, run it again, having lots of problems getting what I needed rendered to the screen so I can actually see it, and just really struggling. And once I put it in this Jupyter Notebook thing, it worked fantastic. So you write your code in here, and this is an example, and then you click run, and it just pops up in the browser. All I was doing here is trying to analyze some data from the Humbug. I have a big CSV file of data, and the code is here, reads from the CSV file and uses Pandas data frame to print it out. And here it is. It just spits out in my browser. That's the first section of my code. Next section of my code is here, where I analyze it to get all of the battery voltages. I worked on this last night, and there it is. When I run it, the results now appear directly in my browser. And this is also a cool example of Pandas, and what was I using here? Plotly, to plot out the graphs themselves. So with this Plotly thing, I can do cool things like now zoom in on my data and see it, and it all happens in my browser. Super cool. Next section of my code, I'm trying to analyze how far I drove, and I tweaked this code and iterated on it a bunch of times until I got it doing what I wanted to. And now I just press run in that section of code, and that appears down here. All nice. Tells me I drove 15.23 miles, and this is some other debugging information I had in here. It just said that all this stuff worked. I can tweak this section of the code, run it again, get my results right in here. And then I go to the next section of code where I want to plot the result on a map, and there it is. Oh, I don't like my zoom level here of 10. I'm going to make it 12 and just run it again. 12 looks pretty good. And I just said, well, take the results of what I did in that last section. Here's my locations. I want to make an ant path, which is, this dotted line that looks like ants crawling. Whatever it is I do in here and experiment with, I can just drop it right in here. It should say, yep, I can zoom in like that, and that all works. This is the path that I drove. I had to iterate on a bunch of times to throw out GPS locations that were bogus in my case, that were jumping all over the place and making my driven path appear longer than it was, because it was jumping here and jumping there where I wasn't really driving there. It was just inaccuracies in the data. And I just added a section in here to say, well, if you're seeing less than 5 GPS satellites, throw out that point. Basically disregard it and keep track of that. I was able to iterate on this stuff super quickly with this easy development environment. So I totally recommend Jupyter Notebooks for playing with this Python stuff.